Good evening, everybody. So this is a 1916 Royal 10, and back here in my escapement area, the gear was broke, and here's the old gear. The tooth was cracked right out of it, and that's how the carriage rail itself goes along the machine. This is a 12-point carriage rail. Actually, this is a 12 Elite gear as well up here, but I just stuck the old 10 on here for now. If you had this on the carriage itself, though, that's how the teeth would made up anyway. Now, this will make more sense. Here's a 12 and here's a 12, so that's how they should mate, okay? And that's what goes on when your carriages are of the same. I was going to use a 12-point rail. I had mounted this to the actual carriage and then mounted this gear onto the 10 pica font spacer, but I just got a 10 space escapement gear, so I just put that in here, and I should have did a record button before I installed it, but at least I started somewhere, right? So how this all goes together, and I robbed this gear. A lot of the other stuff's different, but I robbed that out of a newer assembly. Now the 12-point assemblies are stamped as 12, so Elite font, okay? The 10-point stuff, from what I can tell, is not stamped 10, it's just nothing. Now this newer one has some kind of different edge to it, or unless that's wear, I'm not sure. And then it's got this, instead of a nut on the back like this does. So how this all goes together in there, and then of course when you space, it can increment like that, and then that in the back has a little spring and a little tooth there. So let's put this one the rest of the way back together, and then I'll show you how this goes in and out of the parts machine. I'll show you on that one for that part. So the rest of this, this whole assembly slides out in one piece. This back nut is held on by two little screws that tighten in. So you undo them a little bit to loosen it from the shank. Okay, and then that being behind here and stuff, you can grab it with a needle nose, and you can start to unscrew it a little bit. Once it's free, you can get in there with your finger and you can just undo it, hopefully. If you soak the stuff, you can surely do it. But that's how that comes off. Okay. Now let me get, so this came off of assembly like this. That's where I robbed the gear out of for a 10. Totally different layout. This guy here is a little wider than the old original one on here, but I'm going to try that part from a newer model. It's just a little wider, but it's not broken. It seems to fit, so I'm going to go with this one. I think this is a 1918 part that I'm putting in a 1916 now. And then that gear would be a little newer yet, but it fits behind there, so it's going to be good for where else are you going to get a part, Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so I've got that in there. I hope you guys saw me set that in there. That is your tabulator brake, is what that is. So that would come up under the carriage bottom. And how that carriage rides. Oh boy. Stuff's just falling everywhere. So this is how this bar actually mounts on the back of the carriage like that. If you were to screw it all together, this is a parts carriage, but then of course it rides that track. Okay, and you'd want the right 10 bar, because the 12 bar, yeah, here it's marked, so you can't screw up Elite versus Pica, because it's stamped. It's 12 here as well. So your spacer gear, your carriage rail, teeth are all going to be 12, but the 10 stuff is not marked. Getting that said. So, that just takes one little turn. Then you got this bell ringer doodad here. Yep, there we go. And that's got 2 screws. I set them here. Alright, magnet, do your stuff. Just get this started, and at least I can set this out of the way then, and then I'll show you on that parts machine how that goes together in the middle. Come on, I need a new magnet, I guess. What is your major malfunction? You know, other things I've experimented with is putting full-size Royals feet on a portable machine, and that looks cool. It makes it look like a turtle's walking or something. As a matter of fact, tonight I just tried just to see if an Underwood ribbon spool cover on, like, say, a 1930 Underwood would fit on a Corona 4, and that doesn't work out that way. But you could set a Corona 4, not lock in, but set a Corona 4's ribbon spool cover on Underwood. It looks cool just to see, but I had just snagged an Underwood and Corona 4 cover for like nothing. Okay, so that's how that kind of goes together there. And now let's show you how you get that assembly out. If you have a broken gear back there, you want to know how to get that out. So let me just set this to the side for the moment. I'll drag something up here that we can use for demonstration purposes. Okay, so here's one, and here, let's use this one. So that's the old broken gear. I know it's on a 12, but here's the spacer. Is that even broke? Okay, so there's your spring on the spacer unit itself. You want that to be touching into the gear, right? You see how that goes? Okay, so make sure you got that before you slide this whole thing in there. And then you undo the 2 little screws there so that you can take that off and, you know, maybe lubricate the shaft. That goes in right here, slides right through like so. And now, of course, you'd have this out of the way, hopefully. Get this out of here. Right here is the tip. So when you're on it, you just got to get it started a little bit, and then you can take over from there. It's getting it started that seems to be the, you know, I left the bell ringer doodad on. That's what's getting in my way here. There we go. So now that's started. So I can spin that on there. And you don't want to make it too tight or too loose. Okay? You need it to be kind of, you know, just Goldilocks right or something. You know, so it's moving, it's turning. This doesn't have the... Oh yeah, sure enough. There we go. I guess that part does still work on the parts machine. So you want it to be pretty good like that so that you can space and clear everything. And that's going to be fine. And then you tighten down those 2 little screws that lock that nut onto the shaft itself. And you might have to space it a little bit to get to that second screw to tighten it down like that. And you're done, you know. That gear, it's just too bad that it breaks, you know. I don't know if it wasn't lubricated or what. To get this far into the machine is no hard job really either. This is your back spacer here. So when that plate's, if you had a good spring, that would be hooked onto that. That is actually a screw. I know it looks like a rusted tag, but that's actually a screw there. And that would be attached to that. So you actually could remove this whole plate with it on it, as I did with the one for the other machine. You don't need to undo this. Another thing is that when you're dismounting everything, you're going to have, the carriage is going to have all these mounted underneath and back. You're going to take like 5 of them off. They mount here like this. Let me get this right. Like this. They mount like this all the way down. And then you've also have 2 ball bearings and 2 little gears under here that balance the carriage. They ride this track. You have a drawband, if you have it, coming off of this mainspring. So you would undo it from the bottom of the carriage first thing, and you would have, if you had all your parts, you'd have a thing to set this drawband, a screw here. So once you undid it from the bottom of the carriage, you could latch it on right there onto the screw. So it's really not a bad thing. Just make sure you keep kind of in order. But anyways, that's how you change a gear out on a Royal 10 anyway. All right, everybody, have a good night. Take good care.